I had a similar situation the first time I went, and like I couldn't close my suitcase, and like my one friend's like, you're gonna have to leave a game behind.
Yeah, I can fit games in my pockets, and it'll be okay.
No, I will go naked. I will leave everything behind.
The truth will be revealed.
We are live, and we are here to look at some really cool people within the industry. Really excited to have this special opportunity to talk with our special guest tonight, Kinsey Burke. She's a person who wears many hats, from a YouTuber to a podcast host to a retro game enthusiast to a producer at an independent studio called Chuhai Labs. So we're bringing her on now, and we have our special guest, Kinsey. Hello, thank you for showing up tonight.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to have you here. This is a really exciting opportunity. Where you're at now, how did it all begin for you?
As of right now, I'm a producer at Chuhai Labs. It's an independent game studio out of Kyoto, Japan. I started as a contributor on the Metal Jesus Rocks YouTube channel before I even started my own channel or anything. So I did that first. And from there, I actually joined Twitter. And strangely enough, like that's where I made like most of my connections.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
I started doing like freelance PR, and then I started doing events with Devolver Digital, and that's kind of what ended up leading me to Chuhai.
So when you first started out with Metal Jesus Rocks, like how did you get on the show?
Back in the day, I was the manager at a local game store called Another Castle,
and
that was probably 10, 11 years ago now.
Time flies.
But,
right?
Yeah. But he was actually a customer. And I remember one day he was like, hey, you know, like we have so much fun talking and hanging out. Why don't you come on my YouTube channel? And at first, I'm pretty sure I said no because I was terrified.
I got it.
But eventually I did it. Our first video was Nintendo DS Hidden Gems, I believe. So I was hooked ever since, even though I was still terrified.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I guess pretty much how I started is I started trying to connect with people who were local to me.
Someone once told me, like, getting hired or working within the industry sometimes works a little bit differently than, you know, another industry. So with Devolver, was it just, again, like a straightforward process, like here's my resume and here's my cover letter, or was it a little bit different?
I was all freelance when I was with Devolver. Okay. I started doing freelance PR, and I worked with a couple different companies, and then the PR company I was working freelance for is the same company that Devolver uses for their PR. So then eventually I was at the Devolver booth for like PAXs and things like that, and E3. So then eventually I just got to know the Devolver crew, and they're like, hey, have you ever thought about, you know, working directly with us and doing events? So I was the one who basically I would like book all their dinners and lunches and things like that during big events like PAX. And during the day at the events, I would work at the merch booth and then help with like setup and tear down and things like that.
So when you were with Devolver then, did you get to work with, you know, developers or anybody like that? Or was that more of like they work on their section and you work in your section? I
was there primarily only for events. But I did get to know a lot of the developers, because any of the developers who were there at the event showing their game off, those are the people I really got to know. I did get to work with the developers, not in a way like, I don't know, not in like a production sort of way, but more on like a human level, getting to know them. And so every show is a little bit different. And like some of the developers I still talk to and we're still friends, and like, it was super fun. That's awesome.
Devolver always comes across like, obviously as an outsider looking in, they always seem just so like free-spirited and fun, and I think you could just look at like their E3 conference and how it's vastly different than like pretty much every other conference. So I guess the interesting thing about Chuhai, they're a studio like not even in the United States. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is the owner of the studio or whoever is in charge of it, are they natively based in Japan, or is this somebody from outside of Japan?
Yeah, they're in Japan. Our CEO is actually Giles Goddard, who was one of the very first foreigners to ever work at Nintendo.
Oh, wow,
and
okay.
So he was like the lead programmer on Star Fox. He was the creator of 1080 snowboarding.
Yeah, wow.
Eventually, Mark actually from Chuhai reached out to me and was like, hey, like, I know, like, you've, worked freelance with Devolver, you've done the YouTube thing, you've done all of this, and you want to be in Japan. And I think we have a spot for you.
Wow, that's like
it was amazing.
That's like a dream scenario, right there.
Yeah.
With your job as your role as a producer, what is your typical job responsibility? What do you typically do to kind of keep Chuhai Studios like functioning?
Even though my role is a producer, but because it is an indie studio, we end up wearing a lot of different hats. I'm a little bit producer, a little bit PR.
I'm a little bit country. And I'm a little bit rock and roll.
A little bit community manager. Like, I still get to make fun, like, YouTube videos, and I get to do a little bit of everything. And I think that's my favorite part about working in indie is, you get to... You're not stuck in the same thing all the time.
I know, because like with bigger studios, it seems like it's very siloed, and like, you are a PR, you are a director of communications, that's all you're going to do. And they said, like, what do? I need help. They're like, well, you got to ask the other guy and stuff. So to have that flexibility, that's really cool. So I guess we're going back a little bit. Do you still make videos, if I'm correct, right? Like while you're at your job?
I've been a little bit on a hiatus.
Okay.
Only because I stopped when I found out I was moving to Japan, because I figured I was going to be incredibly busy with packing
It's
moving.
a lot to move your life, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot to pick it up and move it.
I'm definitely going to start up again. I've actually started a TikTok only because like those are so much shorter videos and so much easier to edit, and like I can do a whole video in like an hour and a half.
Do you feel that there's been an increase in just, the awareness of collectors, or do you think collecting has increased because of these companies like Limited Run? Or
I think it's always been this way a little bit.
Okay.
But I do think that these more like limited print companies, if someone didn't have the bug before and they started buying like from these limited run places, limited run, special reserve, like any of those, like you might get that collecting bug that way too if you weren't a collector before. People who are in their like mid-20s are now have money, and a lot of them like had like the 64 when they were little, and they're getting nostalgic for it. So it's kind of the same boom that happened like with my generation with the NES and the Super Nintendo, like when those prices ballooned.
Right.
And like we're seeing right now, it's more 64 and GameCube that are really ballooning.
Oh my goodness, yeah. There was so many times that I joke with my friends and we talk about, if you had a time machine, what would you do? And I'm like, if I had a time machine, I'd go back in time and buy like all these games that are so expensive now. I said I'd buy Earthbound and, Dragon Force for, Sega Saturn and stuff like that, because who knew they would become so expensive? Like, Mario Kart and Smash Bros are still like more expensive than they should be, and I'm like, that's, it's crazy. It just absolutely blows my mind. When you get the urge to like play an old game, and especially if it's available, to be played on a more modern system, do you ever have that yearning to just kind of dig out your old console and plug it in and play it, or do you look for the most convenient way to play it?
Well, if I own the cartridge, I will most likely play it on cartridge. Okay. Any of the systems I don't have hooked up, those are the ones that I'm like, wait, how else can I play this game? Because that's a lot of work.
Do you feel that, like, for example, Nintendo Switch Online, do you think they're helping to keep the interest in retro games alive, or do you think it's for them just kind of more of an afterthought?
I think they do really help keeping retro games alive, because who that is for the person who doesn't care to play it on original hardware, especially when it's like games that, are more expensive.
Even with Konami recently, they put out the Castlevania collection of like Game Boy games, and it's crazy now to think about, because I guess I grew up in that era. There are people saying like, wow, what a great retro console, and I guess that reflexive part of your brain's like, it's not that old, but then when you look, you're like, oh my god, it is that old, and you're like, oh man.
I almost called them kids, like people in there who are in their like early 20s now. Their first system was like an Xbox 360.
I know.
It still like blows my mind, because I don't think of Xbox 360 personally as retro.
I don't either.
So.
It's still too. It's that PS3. It's still too new for me. You know. Because but it really sinks in when I remember like just looking through like YouTube comments, are like, man, I remember that the Wii. They're like, what a great retro system, you know, with great retro games like Skyward Sword and stuff. I'm like, no, stop saying that. I'm like, it's not.
Like, excuse me while I just crumble into dust.
Yeah, I felt myself age, you know, just 20 years during that time. When you're in Japan or just Japan in general, they do appear to have like a retro game scene over there. But from what you've noticed, is it different than it is over here?
A lot of the times, the Japanese equivalent of a game is going to be cheaper than the US version.
Okay.
In most cases. It's weird because I feel like they have way more retro stores over there. I think the collecting scene is the same, sort of. It always surprises me how much stuff there is and, you know, how available it is. So maybe people don't quite collect like we do here, especially because a lot of people don't have, you know, bigger houses or apartments or anything like that. So you might not be able to have like a full game room.
When I went over there, I remember I didn't even go to a lot of retro stores. I went to the one that everybody talks about in like Akihabara. It was like Super Potato. And like I think the thing that like blew me away is like the prices for like games like Sega Saturn games that, you know, or like over here, like no matter what you get, you're gonna be spending a lot of money to get a Saturn game.
My very first trip to Japan, I cannot believe the amount of stuff that I bought. It's kind of funny. My last day in Japan, like the day I had to catch my flight, I was extremely hungover and knew that I had to get to the airport, and I was trying to pack my stuff, and I was just like, where you feel like shit, but you're also like, oh, but I have to go. The person at the ryokan I was staying at kept giving me like a suitcase scale. One of my bags was too heavy, and I was trying to like even it out like amongst all of them. And I had bought this like giant garbage bag basically full of these little Pokemon figures.
Oh, nice.
I bought way too much stuff. And I ended up, I had to open that bag and put the Pokemon like in a little bit everywhere, like packing peanuts.
You just had to put them in like the little spaces and crevasses and stuff.
And I definitely remember on the plane, like I was trying to get something out of my purse fell over, and these Pokemon figures came out. And I was like, ugh. And of course I looked like hell because I was so hungover. I was like, oh my gosh. It was probably hilarious for somebody to be like, whoa, check her out.
I had a similar situation the first time I went, and like I couldn't close my suitcase, and like my one friend's like, you're gonna have to leave a game behind. He goes, what about that game? And it was like Police Knots, and like the collector's edition. I'm like, I'm not even gonna dignify that with a response. I'm like, I'm not.
Like, I can fit games in my pockets. It'll be okay.
No, that's what I'm like. It started going towards. I'm like, I don't need this shirt. I don't need these pants. I don't need these shoes. I could buy shoes. They're like, you can't buy shoes at the airport. I'm like, you can buy shoes. I'm like, it's fine. I don't.
Like, I need one pair of shoes to get through the airport. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm like. I'm like, I will leave. I will go naked. I will leave everything behind.
The truth will be revealed.
I'm like, before I leave these things behind, what is your thing that you do or things that you do to sort of just compress and, you know, forget about the stresses of the day?
Well, definitely play video games. But non-video game related, I'm really actually into craft beer.
Okay. Did you find any craft beers when you were in Japan, or anything interesting over there?
I went to a bunch of breweries. I went to Kyoto Brewing when I was there, and that was wonderful. There's a few breweries in like Shibuya in Tokyo.
Okay.
So I did a whole day of breweries when I was in Japan.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Japan, like, for people who don't know, like, Japan in summer is very hot. And I remember my one friend, he's like, we got to go to like a izakaya, which is like a bar. Japanese beer, he goes on a hot day, like a big pitcher of it, like just ice cold. Because I know, like, my friend's like, he said, he's like, hey, let's go to this store. And I'm like, why do you want to go there? And he's like, oh, there's air conditioning. He's like, I'm like, do you need anything from there? He's like, no, I don't need anything. There's air conditioning, so we can cool off and stuff.
Just hang out in there for a second. Like,
let's just rest. It's we used to joke. He said it's like a checkpoint in a video game. It's like we're resting before we move on.
Hey, get back. All right, let's go.
Did you go to any arcades? Did you go to any like pop-up cafes that were like themed from video games as well?
We went to quite a few arcades. There's one in Akihabara called Hey that I really, really like, so I've been there a few times. Of course, we went to the big Sega arcade, RIP, but...
Yep,
and,
pour one out.
Yep. a few different Taito stations. So like my partner is really big into like Japanese shooters and stuff.
Okay.
So like any sort of shmups. So we went to one arcade. I'm pretty sure it was Hay, but it had like a whole floor of shmups and candy cabs, and he was just like in heaven. Like
oh my goodness.
And I was like, I'm gonna go find the rhythm game floor. Like,
as much as I want to like shmups, it's so hard. I just can't get into them no matter how hard I try. And I know people are like, well, no, it's simple. Just move to slightly left here and slightly up here in this hail of bullets, and you win. And I'm just like, yeah, just like that. Yeah,
my vision's not good enough for shmups. Like, my vision's okay, but I have like slight double vision. So you can imagine a shmup with especially a bullet hell. I'm like, oh my god.
I'm seeing double. I'm seeing 4 bullets.
Like way too much. I went to the Pokemon Cafe and I had like the Eevee burger, which was delicious, and they had like a show with Eevee and Pikachu in their like little chef outfits.
Oh, like, that's cute.
That's cute. So, I did go to the Square Enix Cafe as well.
Okay.
Which I really love Square Enix, but I think their cafe needed some work.
Gotcha. Fair enough, right?
It was World End With You themed, which I do
nice.
like World End With You, so it was
yeah.
But like, it was pretty much more like a fun drink, and they had like a little paper character in it.
Okay, and that's
versus like, the Pokemon Cafe where like my friend got a Ghastly burger, and like the bun is dyed and it has a Ghastly face on it, and
that's awesome.
The meat is like dyed black, and so it's like a little bit different experience, but
made with real Ghastly, right?
Yeah.
Me and my friend, we were lucky enough when I visited, we were able to go to a Dark Souls themed cafe, but it was like during winter, so this was like January, February. Like they were getting like at that time like the biggest snow they've gotten in like a long time, or the biggest blizzard. So in order to actually even just walk to this cafe, like there was like snow piling up and the wind was just like pushing us over, and I'm like I feel like I'm in Dark Souls right now. I'm like, just to get to this cafe. Do you prefer retro games over modern games?
It's a little bit of a mix of both, but it's typically new lately. Like especially since I got Game Pass, it's been crazy. Like that's pretty much all the games I play lately have been on Game Pass. And then, of course, I still love, my AAA games as much as my indie games a lot of the time. Retro games, it's more likely to be, like, with friends.
Okay.
We really like playing Kirby's Dream Course.
That's a good
Shout
game.
Out to Kirby's Dream Course because it's amazing.
I think Kirby always seemed to be, like, really experimental with Nintendo. Whenever they wanted to try something, like, crazy, they're like, well, get Kirby to do it. And I know that you mentioned, like, Xbox is, like, your favorite console.
I actually don't know if Xbox is my favorite console. It's my favorite console to collect for. And
okay.
I'm pretty sure when people ask me what my favorite console is, it changes all the time.
So what console do you feel like doesn't get enough credit?
I honestly think the Wii U.
Finally somebody understands, because I said
the Wii U was great.
When it came out, I'm like, no, they have the best games. And people are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they have like Bayonetta 2 and Hyrule Warriors, and I guess the argument now is that they said, well, it's redundant because like every game is on the Switch. I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, but that's like saying like the Xbox is redundant because like every game went to PC or whatever. Like,
right.
It's so silly. I've heard people say like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of bad for games, don't you think? Like, we're going the way of all digital. We're getting rid of physical forever. Do you feel it's a bad thing, or do you feel like kind of like physical is already sort of on the way out?
I don't know. I feel like physical is still here, but I also kind of feel like the people who were going to go all digital were already doing it. I don't think Game Pass was really any sort of additional nail in the coffin for physical.
Why collect for Xbox? What do you think makes that such a unique console or unique like console family to collect for? When
I went to college, the original Xbox was out and Halo 2 had just come out.
Oh man.
So like it was really cool too, because in my dorm room, if you hooked up your Xbox to the Ethernet, you were hooked up to everybody's Xbox. So
oh my god, that's amazing.
Giant like that's the way the building was wired. It worked out that way.
Oh wow.
And it was so fun. there was so many cool variants with the like even the original Xbox. There's like the see-through one, which is like the Xbox Crystal. There's the Mountain Dew version, all the different controllers, and especially Xbox 360. Oh my gosh, like there's a ridiculous amount of controllers.
There's a lot. There's a lot on there. It's so funny now because they have like the Xbox, I think it's like the design lab or the creative lab where you create your own controller. I'm like, I wonder if that's just like an extension of like how many 360 controllers they put out back in the day. I know people that just collect consoles. So like, they're like, my Death Stranding console came in today. I'm like, oh, I thought you already had a PS4. They go, well, I have like 7 PS4s. So like, but this is the Death Stranding one. That's what's different. You don't understand. I'm just like, makes sense then.
And I feel like Nintendo did it early on in a way, like with like the fantastic colors for the 64.
Oh,
where
right.
It came out in like, clear green and pink and orange and blue and green, like in the early days when you could get a Game Boy in every color and the 64 in every color. And
but that was cool. And like even like with the controllers, going to your friend's house, like, everybody had a different color controller, and like you knew that's his controller and that's her controller because he's got the purple one and she's got the blue one and he's got the little brother got the gray one. That didn't work right.
Hey, wanna play Mr. Wiggles Balloon Hunt? Okay, but I get to be the purple controller. No, I get the purple controller. No, I get the purple. No, I get the purple.
Just like the third-party controller that everyone had that was crap.
The third-party, like, Nico one with like skulls on it or something.
As long as you're cool with using a
like the huge buttons and the sticks on there, and like it didn't work right and it drifted and stuff like that.
Oh, wait, whoa, I'm just walking left for no reason. I'm not pressing anything.
Oh yeah, the joystick's a little warped. It's gonna tilt left unless you move it.
Seriously?
Yeah, just press start so we can start the match.
Start?
There was always that one person who got stuck with that.
Don't blame the controller.
So back in the day with the Wii, the first time we used motion controllers and stuff, was that something that really caught you off guard?
At first, I actually thought it was a gimmick, especially with like early commercials and things like that before I actually got my hands on it.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started playing it, like even just Wii Sports, something about it, like it brought back that feeling of playing games with friends.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Having a couple beers and playing some Wii Sports, man, at the time, even that was fun. Even like as dumb as that sounds, like it kind of brought back just that super like casual fun feeling.
All of a sudden everybody could play again, like regardless of your age or your skill level, or you didn't have to learn the controls, but like you were able to just kind of just jump in and play. Because I remember too, like even PlayStation with the moves, they tried to emulate that success, and then Xbox with the Kinect, and it was a weird era. It was a long era, I think too, like the 360, Wii, PS3. That was I want to say that's probably one of the longest eras like out there.
Yeah.
So I always ask this of everybody. So if you had to choose 3 games, 3 of the games that have influenced you the most, or 3 games that you just consider like, I could play these forever if these were the only games I had, what are they and why?
Zelda Ocarina of Time, because when that came out, I was like in junior high, and I was at a point where I wasn't going to play games anymore. Like I cared more about like horses. I was a horse girl, and like friends and being popular or whatever. Like I didn't play games anymore. And I came home from school one day and my little brother was like, hey, I can't beat this boss. Like it was Queen Goma, so it was like the very first boss of the game. Because he's like 6 years younger than me. So I was like, okay, little brother, I'll help you. And then like we beat the boss, and then that initial going into like Hyrule Field where it like pans.
Oh, and it just opens up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, like games will never get better. This is amazing. And I'm like fucking crying, and I'm just like, this is the best. And then I decided I played games again. And I think my second choice is going to be Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, that's a good one. We have a lot
favorite game.
We have a lot of fans of those on here. All time. That's good.
All time. That's my favorite game. It's the first game I ever cried in.
Everybody says that. No, but if you don't play the game, you don't understand. Like it's really like by the end of the game, you've gone on this like huge emotional journey. So that's
like
a great
lot
answer.
of people don't realize, but the whole game, like it is basically about death and grief and dealing with that. Like, and that's really like the subplot of the game, and like that's really what the game's about. So like once it clicks and you're getting towards the end, you're like, oh wow, this was a journey I
It
went
just
on.
hits you hard. It's that like wave washing over you. Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Last one. Katamari Forever.
Forever. Ooh, interesting
I
choice.
think Katamari Forever is my favorite because I was gonna just pick Katamari and then I was like, no, I gotta pick one. But Katamari Forever is my favorite because you could go through all the different art styles in it. And
right.
I just love Katamari. Like, that's a game that I can play, like, if I'm, like, really upset and I just want to, like, play a game. The perfect, like, meld of adorable and, like, it sounds so cute, but it also can be really challenging and frustrating. Like, it's kind of like that really nice mix of challenge and fun.
What is one game or series that you feel is just, it's overrated?
I'm going to sound like a big downer, but, well, to some people, I think to maybe
Some,
actually
okay.
from what I've seen in the chat, we have similar tastes.
It's
I
okay.
think I'm gonna go
Everybody
with
relax. Madden. Okay, that's fair. So
Madden.
Because all they do is, like, you know, reskin it for the players, and it's just like a big kind of a cash cow, and like they don't really change it that much.
Madden 91, Madden 92, Madden 93, Madden 94.
Occasionally they do come up with something really, really cool, like when they did like the NFL head coach, and that was
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was like more learning the behind the scenes of football, and I don't even care about football, you know. But occasionally they do something different, and then they don't do anything with it, and it's like they do it that one time, and then it's just back to, you know, the cookie cutter game that they come out with every single year.
Madden 95, Madden 96, Madden 97, Madden 98, Madden 99, Madden 2000, Madden 2001, Madden 2000.
And the thing is, like, the old Maddens, like Madden 94 for like Genesis or something, like, it's just because it's, I guess, really arcadey and I guess simple.
Just plain ass, normal, everyday, no question about it, no NFL, no year, no quarterback, dime back, nickel back.
Look at this graph.
I think our like sports games definitely need to be that like fun arcadey multiplayer, you know, like Tecmo Bowl or even like NHL on Ice. I think like there's a whole bunch of like sports games that are super fun because they're more arcadey.
And that's what I said.
And,
Bring them
like,
back. Bring them back. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a racing games. I was talking. I'm like, why did all these arcade racers like Daytona or like Outrun disappear? I'm like, bring those back. Like, we need those. Not everything needs to be like super serious. I guess before we end, if there's anything you want to promote, or if there's anything that you want to talk about and share with the audience, what would you like to say? Like, where do people follow you? What should they follow you on?
For me, you can follow me at Kinzilla, Kinszilla, on pretty much every single thing. And then for Chuhai Labs, we are Chuhai Labs, all one word, on everything. We recently announced our game Curse to Golf.
Yes,
and so
I
you
saw
can
that.
wishlist that right now on Steam. We call it a golf-like. It's a roguelike golf game with very Metroidvania-ish style dungeons, and like it looks so cool. Look at that.
Kinsey, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy
course.
schedule to come on. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the chat really appreciates you taking your time. It's always a pleasure to speak with people who work in this industry or just do cool things in this industry. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. That's it. So,
Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun. I've definitely never felt like, oh, I can't enjoy games now because I work in games. I'm learning so much about the whole process. It makes me think a little bit more about what goes into making whatever game I'm playing.
I guess having the opportunity to talk to everyone on here, my criticism, I guess, is a little bit more relaxed, if that makes any sense, because I'm just like, you know, I'm like, it's